365 with Daniel, your daily dose of inspiration.
Tony managed to combine his passion with business. All his life he's been a traveler, and now you're gonna hear a bit of his story.
We can probably start. And thanks for the time. And I'm excited to hear the insights to
I'm
your
not sure what that
answers.
word.
And the first question is, who do you admire the most and why?
Who do I?
Admire the most and why?
Well, somebody. Look, there's various. Obviously, I have to say something travel related, and I think of travel writers who are very interesting, and Ryszard Kapuscinski, the great Polish journalist and traveler as well. I've always been amazed at the places he got to and how he had an unerring ability to be at places where things were going wrong. If he
Mm,
was still alive today, he would right now be in the Ukraine. Um, that was his great skill. He was in Iran as the Shah was falling over. He was in Angola as the Portuguese were losing their star colony. He was all when things went wrong. Ryszard Kapuscinski was always there.
for you, is there still any place that this is an extra question that came up? Is there any place that you still want to go and haven't seen so far?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I've got loads of places I haven't been to, and
Ah, okay.
constantly they come up. The one that's come up most recently, um, I've never. I've been to quite a few places in Africa, and I've been to pretty much around East. When I say been around, you never go everywhere. You may just set a foot in a place, but that doesn't mean you know the place. But in East
Mm,
Africa, I've been to Tanzania, I've been to Kenya, I've been to Sudan, I've been to Rwanda. I've been around that region. I've never been to Uganda, and I can't quite
mm.
understand why I've not been to Uganda. And I've got various reasons why it would be a good place to go to. And just recently, just in the last week, I was talking to a young woman who lives in America but is from Uganda, and she was saying her family still have a bed and breakfast there, and she still has connections with Uganda. And I was thinking, I should go to Uganda. So there you are.
It's gonna happen for sure. It's
Oh,
it's in your mind, so
there's
yeah.
lots of places. I have not been everywhere. There's lots of places
Okay,
I haven't been to, and lots of them I would still like to go to. But Uganda is certainly one of them.
okay, cool. Mm, what is one habit that you adopted recently and that paid off?
Oh, look, I wish I had adopted some habits recently. I keep telling myself recently, be more patient.
Mm,
Take things more slowly. Don't be in such a hurry. Don't make decisions too fast. But I'm really bad at it. I, I am still appallingly impatient, and I'm constantly slapping my wrist and saying, "Don't, don't do that. Think again." But who knows?
so the idea of patience.
That would be a good habit if I'd taken it up recently.
Okay. Um, what is one moment when you felt most grateful?
Oh, I'm constantly feeling grateful. Every time I go somewhere new, I'm grateful for the ability. And I think that's I went to this last month. I've been in Africa in Chad, a country which I really knew nothing about before. When a friend of mine said I'm organising a trip to Chad, do you want to come? I've never been there. I thought, well, if he says it's good enough to go to, I should go, but it was much better than I'd expected. And afterwards, when I was checking photographs and so on, I was googling for photographs of the places I'd been to, and I discovered a friend of mine went there about 4 or 5 years ago. I was absolutely amazed that he'd been there. I had no idea he'd been there. It's not a place. I don't know. I think he's the only other person I know who's been there.
Mm.
I emailed him and said, did you really go there in 2015? You went to same place as I did. And he said, yeah, he said, it's remarkable how you still find places that just amaze you. And that's a
Mm.
great thing to find. If you can keep on
Hmm.
doing that, the world keeps getting bigger.
It keeps getting bigger.
Yeah,
I- If you could teach or pass a skill to other people, what would it be?
just go. You know, that's the,
Mm.
there's one thing that when anybody should do, it's just go. You know, people, they sit around saying, should I do this? Should I do that? Will this be okay? Is that going to be all right? No, go. You can worry about if it works out or not afterwards.
It's like you're never ready, more or less. Just
You're never
because you're.
ready. You can always make
Yeah,
excuses why you should put things off. And you know, you make you're far happier about the things you do, and even if they're not necessarily a good decision, than the things you don't do. You know, if you don't do it, well, it could have been good, it could have been bad. You never know. If you do it,
yeah.
it works out terrific. If it fails, there you go.
You learn something.
Yeah, you know.
What are you currently reading?
I'm currently reading a book called Cities of Imagination, Imaginary Cities.
Mhm.
Imagine and Cities are both in the title of it, and it hasn't been published yet. It's a new book by a guy. He's an American, but he's a pilot for British Airways, Mark Van Hoenacker, and
Okay.
it's a book about. It's a book partly about what it's like being a pilot, in as much as you go to some places often. You know, you may not spend long there. He was saying that one of those cities like that for him was Los Angeles. And he said, someone said, how many times have you been to LA? And he thought, well, I've been at least 13 times, maybe 20 times. And then he, of course, pilots, you know, they got a logbook and they can look up. He said,
Yeah.
and I've been there 39 times. You know, that's a lot of visits. They may never be long visits, but there are a lot of them. And I thought it was a really interesting book. I've just finished reading it. He asked me to read it to, make some comment about it. Imagine a City. It's called.
Hmm.
And it is that sort of looking at different cities. And he ties it up in different ways. Cities that have this, or cities that have that. Cities that have circles.
Yeah.
He said, well, one of the chapters was cities which have circles, and then he
Yeah.
got talking about the Yamanote circular line around Tokyo metro line, which is probably the busiest railway line in the world. And he sort of took you round the
Mm.
talking about each station as you went. It was very interesting, but it was also it was a love letter to the town he grew up in, and I'm a little bit surprised in a way. Pittsfield in Massachusetts in the US, town I'd never heard of before. And he's
Yeah.
clearly got
Me
a
either.
no, no need to. Um, but he's clearly got a sort of it was a love letter to that town. You know,
Mm.
he grew up there. He had a lot of friends related, good and bad. You know, he didn't like school particularly. He had problems at school, but nevertheless, there were all these connections which he valued, and every chapter started with talking about these cities, and then something at Pittsfield that reminded it of. It's an interesting book. I've got to sort of go
Hmm.
through it again and look at it some more. But it was interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a
Sounds like
trouble.
it.
That's a good thing to be.
um, what would you put on a flyer that would be seen by the entire world?
I think that same thing I said before. Just go. you know,
Just go. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
go is
Yeah. Yeah.
important. You know,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you sit around thinking if this isn't going to work, you're never going to get there.
That's the idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's a fun one. Who is your favorite cartoon character and why?
I don't have a favorite cartoon character. I'm not a big reader of cartoons. The only one I really read very often is a weekly little strip by Dilbert, who is the archetypal computer nerd, and it's a very much a little cartoon strip of our current era because computer nerds are important people. They see the
Yeah.
world in their own very curiously focused way. But yeah, for a long time, I very much liked the American series Doonesbury, very political. And there haven't been new Doonesbury cartoons for quite a long while, but he was very good when he was at the cutting edge of
Yeah.
cartoons and politics.
So yeah. Okay. This is the one. Um, what fear did you overcome, and what did you learn from the experience?
What did I? Sorry,
What fear? What fear
fear,
did you overcome? Yeah,
fear.
and what did you learn?
I've constantly got fears. Um, I think it's the thing I'm sort of saying repeatedly that it's you shouldn't be afraid of doing things. You've got
Mm,
to get out there and do them. But if you sit there thinking this isn't going to work, you're never gonna try. And I've lots of times there's things I think should I do this? Should I not do it? And I'm
yeah.
always I'm always pleased. People can you can say yes or no, and I think it's always a good thing to say yes. Yes is an important thing to say. No, get it.
Yes, man. There's that movie with Jim
I'm a yes
Carrey. I
man.
find.
Yeah, yeah.
if uh, if you could meet one person that you haven't met, who would it be? Why? And what would you talk about? It could be, I mean,
I,
both alive or dead.
yeah, I've often said that if there was one of the sort of the great explorers I'd like to have met, it would have been
Yeah,
Joseph Banks. He was the person who sort of studied nature, who went with Captain James Cook on his voyage around the world. And I often think he was sort of having those almost like close encounters of the third kind, where you meet people who've never met them. He went to particularly in the South Pacific, French Polynesia and New Zealand, and meeting people who had not met Europeans. The our civilization before. We shouldn't be too keen about our civilization, but he was seeing things entirely new and entirely unexpected and entirely with entirely no experience of it. And I think these days it's so hard to have that sort of experience. You don't go to like he did going to Australia, and seeing animals in Australia that no one had ever seen before. This curious animal that hops around on two legs. You go back. I always think the strangest animal is the Australian platypus. There you are. You have a mammal that lays eggs that has the beak like a bird. Who would believe it? You wouldn't, and it's got a poisonous claw sort of thing.
yeah.
It's a very very strange animal, and whoever had to come back and explain that to people who'd never seen one before, would say you're crazy. That doesn't exist, but it did. Still does.
I always find funny this idea like we are looking for aliens, but if you just look in the ocean, in the deepest sea,
Just
what you
lots
see
of
there
aliens
is
and
like,
things. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, there's new
Yeah,
things all the time.
yeah. Here's one. What is something that most people learn only after it's too late? Late.
Geez, I don't know. I've always said one of the things about travel is you realize that people are people everywhere. They have the
Mm,
same needs and desires, and we aren't different. The things we look out for are the same things. And I think if you go out into the world with respect for what other people are looking for as well, it generally works. So yeah, I think try and try and believe that things are. I often see people say, "Well, why did you go there? That sounded dangerous or something." My view is things are never as dangerous as the media or television or what make them out to be. When you get there, you find it's not that bad. I think I've always said you go to a place and you walk out on the street and it doesn't take you very long to begin to feel what it's like. You get that feeling for how things work. Um, and being out on the street is the most important thing.
If you, I don't know, if tomorrow you could keep from your material stuff only what fits in a backpack, what would you go for?
I'd take my laptop. Everything I've done is on it.
Yeah.
All the photographs I've taken for the last 10 years, every letter I've written. In fact, an awful lot of it. I've got a little USB stick which I carry around most of the time, and most of my life is on that USB stick. If I had that with me still, I'd probably be okay. Where is it? It's in my pocket still. Ah, there it is. Yeah, as long as I've got that, I'm okay.
That's that's very stoic.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could know the absolute and total truth to one question, what question would you ask?
God Almighty, that's a good question, and I haven't got an immediate answer to it.
Yeah,
Um,
no worries. Take your
no,
time.
no, I can't think what. There'd be something I would like to know. I mean, I what did was it Einstein who said, there's only two things infinite or something, the universe
Yeah,
and
yeah.
human stupidity or something.
Y- Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
constantly amazed of, here Putin is proving human stupidity at the moment. In Britain, Boris Johnson has been proving Brexit stupidity. Donald Trump proved stupidity for years. Maybe that's what I'd like to know. What is the limit of stupidity? And I think Putin is looking for that limit at the moment. Someone said, one good thing might come out of this. It might be the end of Putin.
It might be. It might
Yeah,
be.
might be
Yeah.
a good thing.
Anyways, we're gonna find out. I guess like probably I think like the limit of stupidity would be like to destroy not the planet but our species. If
Oh, we're
humans
doing.
could
We're working hard on that one.
yeah,
That's
for sure we are.
yeah. And
And actually,
what do you do? Yeah.
are there places that, let's say, because of this made me think, like you visited, let's say, 25, 30 years ago, and then you visited them in the last 10 years, and did you find something like negative changes,
Oh,
especially with
look, yeah. I
nature
mean,
and
I think one of the things that I get blamed for things. In the Lonely Planet era, people would say, that place was wonderful. And then Lonely Planet did a guidebook to it, and everybody went there. It's
yeah,
like, obviously, we weren't the only influence. There were many influences, and I don't know. It's people have to have some responsibility for how things, tourist wise, how things happen. You can't sort of say, oh, we want lots of tourists. They can come in and do whatever they want and spend as much money as they want, and we'll build them another hotel and another airport and
yeah,
another, and then think, oh, that was not necessarily a good idea. It isn't just the people going there; it's the people who run things who have a responsibility as well.
for sure. It's always a choice, an individual choice that multiplies. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What do you do when you can't focus?
Oh, God, I wish I had an answer to that one because very often it's too easy to be distracted. I mean, and this last year has been awful for us. Anytime you can't focus, you can look at what the COVID figures are in a different country. I was just talking in the last couple of days, talking to a friend in Hong Kong, where the
Yeah,
situation is appalling at the moment. And it's the government. The government's trying to make Hong Kong fit into China, but Hong Kong is not China, and it's just complete madness. And it's so easy to get distracted by these things. I think if there's one way that I successfully focus is I'm constantly drawing up a list of 5 things I must do. I must answer this letter, finish reading that book, do something with those photos, and unless you're constantly making a list and then putting a tick beside
aiming
it,
to it.
done that.
Yeah,
You've got otherwise you push things to a side all the time and you never get them done.
You write it down, or you do it digitally on the
I do both.
laptop?
I've
Okay.
got a little notebook I carry around all the time when I haven't got time to, but I have to do, copy them down to my laptop pretty quickly because I can't read what I wrote.
Yeah. 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 Here's another. What's a belief that you hold, which many people disagree with?
Um, I don't know. I, people do sometimes say, you shouldn't say yes so often. You should be more selective, and I'm not very selective. people, people say, phone me up in Romania. I say yes. It's been okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I guess it's like it's few. Maybe it's also curiosity there. I guess one of the main elements
Yeah,
of saying yes.
I think curiosity is a great thing, and I think we're constantly. I mean, and that's the one of the virtues of travel is that it's constantly opening, new horizons. You constantly find something else you want to investigate, and I'm either very good or very bad at doing that. That I can easily be led down another dark alleyway looking for something that I'm going to waste huge amounts of time on and not be very successful at.
Mm. Yeah, there's something like I'm in my late 20s, and I've traveled only in Europe so far, and I've heard many times this idea that, wow, the best investment that you can do in life is to travel, you know? And I was curious to hear your perspective on this, because I'm not sure if it's like, if it's, if people really believe that when they say it, or if it's
I
connected
think,
to a,
look, I'm a, it's made my life. If I
yeah.
hadn't travelled, I would. So, it's very, for me, it's enormously important. But I think there's lots of different sorts of travel. And I greatly admire people who are focused in their travel. They, they really want to know one thing really well. They study the history there, they learn the language, they focus on. They may not go everywhere else, but they that particular expertise is a real expertise. And that's isn't the way I've travelled, but I can understand the importance of it. And maybe people doing that, come out of it in a different fashion, and it could be a better fashion.
You think it also contributes to like a personal change, especially when you go in a totally different culture? Like for me, it felt even in Europe, some cities I felt that they were. I'm not sure how, but it felt like a changing moment for me.
Yeah, we actually I like one of the things I like almost everywhere. It's very rare I go somewhere that I don't like it. I'm am I too positive? But I I find that there's something interesting to be said about almost anywhere. But obviously, yeah, I mean, some places. I mean, I'm just talking to this morning to an Italian friend, and he's trying to persuade me to come to Italy in July. And I'm thinking, I could another trip to Italy would not be bad.
Italy is nice.
Everybody loves Italy. Great
Yeah,
food, great wine, great
yeah,
art. What's not to like? Fast cars.
yeah. True, true. Uh, I think we reached the final question, and
Okay.
is there any exact method that leads us to what we want or dream about?
Oh, look, I always, you know, life is full of luck. We're lucky that we do this, and we're lucky we do that, and luck. I, I'm a great respecter of luck. That I was lucky in so many ways, and um, but I remember someone saying once, there's also hard work, and I find when I work hard, I'm much luckier. And I
Yeah.
think that's it's a good thing to follow. That if you do work hard, luck sometimes follows behind the hard work. Too, you don't get you do need both. I've had friends who worked enormously hard, but never had that sort of lucky spark of inspiration, and therefore the hard work didn't get them where it should have done, perhaps. And others the other way around. They had the luck, but then they didn't work hard enough at it, and as a result, didn't get the results. So you need both. You need the luck and you need the hard work to go with it.
Yeah, you need like you need to be you need them to be synchronized more or less from both
Yeah,
the.
yeah, yeah. Synchronicity is a wonderful thing. Good word too.
We reached the end of the episode. Our host Daniel is always searching for new guests. If you have any people in mind that you want to see in the podcast, please share the names via social media. Want to support our journey? Please review, share, and subscribe to our social channels and help us inspire more and more people. See you in the next episode.